Hello and welcome back, all 5 of you. My name is Pilot Margent, and out of all the movies you watched as a kid, which one was your all-time favorite? I mean, sure, you got classics like Aladdin and WALL-E and the legendary Kronk's New Groove, but I don't really think that movies like that will be very fun to review because everybody has seen them, plus the fact that I don't really want to upset Disney, but that's beside the point. Everyone had a favorite movie while they were growing up, and for some reason I was always drawn to stop-motion movies. Coraline, Corpse Bride, Wallace and Gromit, Chicken Run, dude, I could go on forever about these movies and how amazing each one of them are individually. But for this video, we're only gonna talk about my all-time favorite, the Fantastic Mr. Fox movie. Fantastic Mr. Fox is a 2009 stop-motion animation film that's based off of Roald Dahl's Bilby Award-winning book by the same name. And I'd like to note that even though this movie didn't win any awards itself, as far as I know of at least, that doesn't mean that the cast list for this movie isn't full of big names by any means whatsoever. We're talking about names like George Clooney, Bill Murray, Wes Anderson, Meryl Streep, and the ever-so-amazing Owen Wilson.
Wow.
But what kind of story could bring all these stars together for a movie that didn't even win any awards? Well, the film follows Mr. Fox and his family as they're going through their daily lives. That is, until Fox realizes that he's bored of everyday life and decides to turn to a life of robbing farmers of all of their merchandise. We're talking chickens, we're talking cider, we're talking squab and turkeys. Literally everything the farmers have to give is up for grabs. Eventually, though, the farmers of course decide to retaliate, and this in itself leads to a whole other mess of events that transpire as Fox and the farmers attempt to work their problems out. And if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead and grab a snack, grab a drink, and sit the cuss down because it's time to get into Fantastic Mr. Fox. We open up on a shot of Mr. Fox stretching and relaxing under a tree while waiting for Mrs. Fox to get back from her doctor appointment. Moments later, Mrs. Fox walks up to him and the two start to head home on their quote-unquote
scenic route.
Little does Mrs. Fox know, however, the scenic route is just a glorified way of Mr. Fox saying that before they go home, he would like to pick some flowers and look at the hills and, oh yeah, rob a farmer of his squab. What's a squab? I actually don't know. That? I guess. Just before they're able to make their great escape though, Mr. Fox becomes enthusiastically entranced by trying to estimate where a fox trap will fall if he pulls on this chain. Although he seems rather sure of himself, he ends up being completely wrong and entrapping both himself and his wife in the cage. Miss Fox, seeing no better time to talk about this, decides to tell Mr. Fox.
I'm pregnant.
And after also telling him that she wants him to get into a new line of work, we skip ahead to 12 Fox years later and Mr. Fox is sitting at his kitchen table as Mrs. Fox is cleaning in the background. We then get a momentary opportunity to meet their son Ash, who literally only comes out to try to get out of going to school. This of course doesn't work, but we learn that Ash's cousin Christopherson will be coming to visit at a later point in the movie. Mr. Fox then reveals to us that he's currently unhappy with where he lives and that he feels poor, so after eating his breakfast in a completely normal manner, I of course meant Fox normal, not human normal. If you do that, please stop. He goes off to look at a tree that's for sale. Almost instantly, he falls in love with the place for all the wrong reasons, mind you.
What's that?
And decides to go off to the bank in an attempt to get a house loan. At first, Badger, Fox's accountant, is hesitant about giving him the loan because of how bad of an overall deal it is, both financially and safety-wise, due to the fact that the tree literally sits adjacent to 3 of the most dangerous farmers around, Bogus, Bunce, and Bean. But after talking it out a bit,
Are you cussing with me?
No, you cussing with me?
Don't cuss and point
You're
at me.
gonna cuss with someone, you're not gonna cuss with me.
the two finally come to an agreement, and the move-in process begins. After a short montage of the house being prepared, everyone is fully moved in, and it's now time for Christopherson to enter the picture. Christopherson starts to make his way over to the tree, and then we skip to Mr. and Mrs. Fox sat out under the tree while Ash and Christopherson are having a friendly diving contest. This is when we first get introduced to Ash's inferiority complex, which is directly caused by the fact that Christopherson is taller than him, more athletic than him, and is literally trained in jujitsu or something like that, all while being younger than him. That of course leads to problems later into the night when the two are getting ready for bed and Ash makes Christopherson sleep underneath his train set table. Ash though does have a change of heart when Christopherson starts to cry and actually decides to show his little cousin some kindness. Now I know I touched on it a little bit earlier, but the main reason that Fox wanted to move into this place specifically is because he's planning to rob Bogus, Bunce, and Bean. But to do a robbery like this with the 3 most dangerous farmers around, you're going to have to choose someone stealthy and highly skilled, and who better to choose than Kylie, the opossum. Who is Kylie? I think he's their HOA guy, something like that. I mean, it's never really discussed who Kylie is. He just kind of starts to exist after Fox buys the house. But anyways, the two sit down in Fox's study and start to discuss their plan for breaking into Bunce's farm later into the night. And after a short scene where Ash and Christopherson are in chemistry class for some reason, I don't really know what animals need to know chemistry for. It kind of frightens me if I'm being completely honest. It's finally time for the covert operation to begin. Even though they spent an extensive amount of time studying and prepping for this break-in, our criminal duo still manages to run into some unexpected hiccups. For example, Kylie's inability to kill a chicken with his teeth, or the fact that they literally planned this break-in way in advance and still managed to completely forget about planning their getaway. Other than that though, the robbery goes rather smoothly. At home, however, Foxy starts to raise some suspicions when Mrs. Fox finds a brand new delicious chicken sat in the pantry. This doesn't really stop him, however, and it's then revealed to us that Kylie and Fox will be robbing Bunce tonight. This robbery too goes off without a hitch, but when Mrs. Fox checks the pantry in the morning, she finds... Well, that's not suspicious. Checking back in on the kids, Christopherson and Ash are currently in phys ed playing a game by the name of Whack-Bat. Now, I'm not going to go over all the rules myself because honestly, I'm completely confused by the game, but if you were planning on starting your very own Whack-Bat team, don't worry, because none other than Mr. Lightning McQueen himself is going to explain the rules for you.
Basically, there's 3 grabbers, 3 taggers, 5 twig runners, and the player at Whack-Bat. Ka-chow.
The only real significant part of the scene is that it turns out that, surprise, surprise, Christopherson is actually really good at this game. Later into the night, Ash decides to remind us about how he's insecure by bringing a trophy that he earned for
Being an athlete.
Moments later, Kylie and Mr. Fox excuse themselves from the dinner table while claiming that they have a book party to attend for Fox's article. But of course, in reality, the two are actually off to steal some cider from Bean, and to make matters even worse, Fox decides to bring Christopherson along with them because apparently he has prowess. Initially, just getting into the cider warehouse isn't all that challenging, but once they arrive, they're confronted by a security rat.
I knew I couldn't trust you.
This then causes a very non-confrontational fight to break out, but inevitably it ends with Christopherson locking Rat in an apple crate when everyone gets distracted by the cellar door opening. Fox and Christopherson then run off to hide from Bean's wife, and after a very high-stress moment of almost getting caught, the three manage to escape. The robbery, however, causes Bogus Bunce and Bean to call an emergency meeting to discuss what they should do about the fox. Bean then reveals to them that he has discovered the tree where Fox and his family live, so the three decide to take up cover in the bushes outside of the house the next night in preparation of when Fox leaves to inevitably rob them again. And just like clockwork, the next night, Fox, Kylie, and Christopherson all head outside to start their next break-in, but near immediately get ambushed by the farmers. Luckily enough, none of them get fatally wounded, but unfortunately for Mr. Fox, Bean managed to shoot off his tail. After Foxy gets his wound sewn up and Ash throws a fit about not being given a bandit mask, everyone tries to head to bed, but that soon gets interrupted by the farmers starting to dig the tree up. This then causes the family to start digging their way underground for about 1 Fox hour until they decide to take a break. We then get a short scene where Mr. and Mrs. Fox demonstrate domestic violence for us. That's then followed up by them talking about how Foxy betrayed her trust by going back to robbing farmers after all this time. She then ends the conversation by saying that the only way they'll ever get out of this mess is if Foxy changes his personality. We're then treated to a montage of the farmers trying to find the foxes and the foxes continuing to dig their way into the ground. Overall though, the farmers don't have any luck, and so the next day they decide to use dynamite in an attempt to unearth the burglars, but this too fails, and so Bean decides to round up all 108 workers from the farms to assist in the literal fox hunt. Of course though, with the heavy destruction to the land and the fact that there are 108 snipers all armed and ready to tag any wild animals, all the other wildlife in the area is also forced to go underground. Eventually they all meet up with the foxes and start to do their cuss thing again, but Mr. Fox soon comes up with a brilliant solution once he realizes that all of the workers from the farms have gone hunting, and so that means that the farms are left utterly defenseless. After filling out the proper direction to dig, he has everyone follow his lead as they head off to get resupplied. The plan of course goes off without a hitch, and the animals manage to get away with quite literally everything they had. Obviously though, this angers Bean beyond reasonable means, and at this point hunting down the foxes has become an absolute obsession for him. So much so that Bean actually tries to wash out all the animals using a mix of both water and cider, but that'll have to wait, because while everyone is currently feasting on their stolen delights, Christopherson and Ash both sneak into Bean's house in an attempt to win back Foxy's tail. In the process though, the kids manage to get distracted by more food, and once Bean's wife manages to get her glasses on, she then proceeds to chase the two around. Meanwhile at the feast, while Foxy is mid-speech, the cider water mix finally reaches them and absolutely washes everyone and everything out of the mine they were in and into a sewer system. Ash then too manages to find his way to the group, but it's then revealed that something has happened to Christopherson, though no one knows knows what. Convinced though that Kristofferson has likely been captured, Fox decides that he's going to attempt to exchange his life for Kristofferson's freedom and hopefully the freedom of all the other animals as well. And after a long tearful goodbye from Foxy, he heads up to the surface to turn himself in. The rest of the animals then break into groups and start looking for Kristofferson when they once again run into the security rat. Rat basically just confirms our suspicions about Bean having Kristofferson tied up somewhere and wanting to exchange him for Foxy, but Rat then tries to take Ash since he's Fox's son, which then causes Ash to call for help, which then summons none other than Mr. Fox back over to help his son. Foxy and Rat then have a short fight, but Foxy manages to overpower Rat, quite literally, mind you. And Rat, in reward, tells Fox where Kristofferson is being kept. This then triggers all the animals to work together in an attempt to rescue Kristofferson. Phase 1 of this rescue mission involves a literal showdown between the animals and the farmers, which to get past all the armed men, Foxy quite literally sets the town on fire. For Phase 2, Fox, Kylie, and our favourite stowaway Ash all head toward Bean's farm on a conveniently Fox-sized motorcycle to find Kristofferson. Once they get to Bean's farm, Phase 3, finding and getting Kristofferson back safely, then begins. After being confronted by a rabid dog, Ash and Kylie manage to free Kristofferson while Foxy is off playing with his new puppy friend. Fox does eventually regroup with the other three though, and before they're able to leave, the group has only one more obstacle to get through. Surprisingly enough though, Ash is the one who manages to save the day by releasing the rabid dog to chase everyone around, though in the process, Foxy's tail gets nearly completely destroyed. During all the chaos, the group manages to escape via a conveniently placed stunt expo, and after a short scene where everyone stares at a wolf, we're transported to a later point in time where Fox and his entire family are all living in some sort of hostel-style underground place when he rounds them all up so he can show them something. He then takes them all to a drain grate that opens up in the middle of a supermarket, and the whole family then goes on a shopping spree. Everyone then gathers around with juice boxes, and after Foxy gives a toast to living like wild animals, the movie closes out on the family happily dancing along with a pan out that soon reveals to us that the supermarket they're now stealing from belongs to none other than Bogus, Bunce, and Bean. I've discussed this before in previous videos, but I really am not a fan of the whole dance ending sort of thing whenever everybody's dancing because, hey, look at this, we're at the end of the movie and everyone's okay. I don't think it's necessary that they would need to be dancing around. I feel like the point was kind of like set in stone enough that they were happy and this was supposed to be a happy new ending, and look, even though that they had their home destroyed and everything like that, they're gonna be fine now because they found all this food, and then it pans out. And you still get that scene, that twist at the end of the movie without the dance sequence. I just don't get why we need a dance sequence at the end of the movie. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, after my story breakdowns, I like to give the movie itself a re-watchability rating on a scale of 1 to 5, based off of my opinion, not your opinion. My opinion on whether or not I'd rewatch it personally. And in the case of Fantastic Mr. Fox, I'm going to be giving Fantastic Mr. Fox a perfect 5 out of 5 on my rewatchability scale, essentially meaning that I would, in the future, go out of my way to watch this. I know that for a fact, because I've done it in the past. I did it to watch it now. I mean, this movie is one of my favorites, like, of all time. It's just straight up one of my favorites, and not in the ironic way where Harpies is one of my favorites. It's just genuinely good. I love it. It's funny, the characters are charming, the scenery is amazing, the overall animation is beautiful. I love everything about this film. Stop motion animation in itself is one of the most impressive types of filmmaking, and I think it's that artistic expression, that small, subtle details, that long extended period of time that I really fall in love with. But beyond that, the way that this movie was built, script-wise, story-wise, everything about it. I mean, I can pick out flaws, I can take little things and complain about them, but honestly, in this case, doing that is a mute opinion for me because I just love this movie so much. I have so much love in my heart for this movie. It represents my childhood, it represents a sense of comedy, and I can find a lot of my own personality in Mr. Fox's personality. So for me, I could rewatch this any day of the week and probably only get bored of it a couple of times. And with that being said, this is the end of the video, so if you're only here for the whole movie story breakdown and maybe the whole rating at the end, that's really up to you. This is the end of the video, pretty much, so I'm about to do my outro. Before that, I'm gonna say something else. So for those of you who know, I try to upload at least once a month, but I actually messed up my schedule this month. Like I said in that short I put up on my channel. So yeah, if I mess up my scheduling, then it ends up pushing the video back a whole like week because I only have 2 days off and I work overnight and I work a high stress job. So for me, this is just hard to do if I don't schedule it ahead of time. So I apologize for that. This should be up in the first week of February. And this doesn't mean that it's going to be taken away from the video at the end of February. This is literally just considered the video for January. I know that's a little bit confusing, but this video was meant for January. I just messed up. So like I said, going to be getting 2 videos in the month of February. My scheduling should be set in stone now. We're good. We're good. Shouldn't happen again yet. But that's going to be it for me today. If you like this video, then like this video. If you have any movies or anything that you want to suggest to me down in the comments, please leave it down there and I will get back to you. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want to keep up with my content, I am planning to keep making these once a month, as long as I get my scheduling right. And if I don't, you'll get 2 videos the next month. But either way, I'm going to keep uploading because I'm really enjoying this. So expect more from me. If you want to go on this journey with me, please consider subscribing. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and please do remember that you matter and that you are important. Now, cuss off.